Hello and good evening, everyone. I am so glad to see you all. Welcome to Not All the Things. I am Dr. Davia, and I am so glad that you are here for this conversation tonight. I am super excited because I have a sister friend with me, I have an educator with me, I have a coach with me, I have a leadership guru with me. My sister friend Carol Campbell-Fullard will be here to talk with us about educator wellness. And if any of you in this space work in a school system, work around a school system, or have been listening to the news, you know that educators and leaders are under pressure right now. And so this is not only a conversation for educators, but I do think women who have been holding things down and holding things together will gain from this conversation. Feel free to sit back and be in community with us, and definitely be joining in on the conversation in the comments box. If this is your first time here, welcome. If you are a repeat, thank you for coming back. I appreciate you. And I would love for you to make sure you hit the like button and you subscribe throughout, because I know you are going to get something out of this content. So I am going to bring my sister Carol in and we will get started. Hey, Carol.
Thank you for having me.
Yes.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Good. Introduce yourself. Tell folks a little bit about you and what your work is.
All right. So my name is, as she said, Carol Campbell-Fullard. I've been in education now for, we'll just say, a long time.
It's okay. You looking fabulous as usual. So,
Oh my gosh, over 25 years. And I've been at every level from the classroom to a principal. And in the next 2 years, I will retire. And I'm currently also working as a ICF associated coach. And I've started my own coaching business called I Am My Pieces.
I
So
love
that's
that.
just a little bit about me,
I
in addition to
love
being a
that.
mom.
A mom, being a mom. I know. Speaking of being a mom, my sweetheart is in the room. I appreciate you, Marley, for being in this space with us. She
Aw.
holds me
Hi,
down
Marley. I
every
see.
week. She holds me down every week, even when I'm not sure if anybody's showing up. Usually, Miss Marley shows
I
up
love it.
and she goes, "Hi,
I
mom.
love it.
You doing good, mom?" She cheers me on, so I appreciate that.
Yes,
Um,
they do come in handy.
they listen. They do, right, when they show up. Carol, did you bring any wine today? Are you a wine
No, I
drinker?
didn't bring. I am, but I'm a little bit on a fast of the wine. We're trying to get the impurities out and clear. So I brought some water.
Okay, good. Water's good. I did not bring water. I brought
That's okay.
I brought a buttercream Chardonnay for the
Oh,
conversation.
yes. I
Yes,
love
this
it.
one's pretty good. It's a little buttery, and I just
Mhm.
decided, why not? Why not have a little
Yeah,
glass
wine.
of wine?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I am not opposed to wine at all. I'm just trying to be in this phase of drinking more water in my life
Listen,
because it's a deficit.
for many of us, we need a lot more water. And
Exactly.
usually I have my water and I have my wine. Today,
Yeah,
I
nice
was
combination.
Yeah, it's the best combination actually. So I would love for you to just share a little bit about what inspired you to get into educator wellness, and how did that kind of become one of your journeys that you've been on? What was that like?
How do I say this? What usually inspires us when we when we have our own crash of some sort,
I
and
know.
that is essentially what happened. Um, I'm typically one of those people, no matter what I'm going through, I'm going to push through. But there came a point in my life where pushing through was not working. And, I found myself in a mental crisis
Mm,
in terms of how I was feeling about myself. And I decided to take myself to a coach.
nice.
And as we worked through some things, I was like, oh, this feels really good. And
Mm,
then after the coach, I also went on to work with a therapist, wonderful woman. And it just really made me realize how long I was suffering in silence.
Mm, mm,
And it wasn't just the personal things, it was the professional things.
right.
And so I think what happens is we spend so much time trying to be strong for our families and trying to be strong in the workplace, and we don't take care of ourselves. And I'll never forget, I came across a quote
Mm,
by Dr. Viktor Frankl that said, when we can no longer change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves.
mm.
So that is the space that I have been in. And that is how I kind of jumped into this educator wellness because I see it around me every day.
Wow,
So
that you know what's really powerful is that you recognize for yourself that you needed some support and that you weren't trying to do it by yourself. There are a lot of times I feel like we're consistently doing things on our own. We're
absolutely.
consistently saying, okay, I can do this, I can manage. And so, one, you got a coach. And even coaches need coaches, you know, and a lot of times
Absolutely.
people forget that. You know, I'm a big
Absolutely.
advocate of if you have a mentor, lean into your mentor, but that person's usually for professional, doesn't always coach you, right? Sometimes a mentor can
Right.
coach you, but sometimes it's not the same. And then you reached out and got a therapist. And so just just doing those two things is something that many of us will not allow ourselves to do. And that's for everybody's kind of wellness, right? That's not just for
Yeah.
educators. That is for everyone to be able to say, I need additional support and I'm going to get
Right.
a coach and I'm going to get a therapist and I am going to, you know, lean into the support and do the work, you know, and
Yeah.
do the work. Um, so that's really
And I think that's
important.
the part that's really, really important is doing the work. Um,
Yeah.
don't waste your money to show up for 60 minutes and then when you walk out the session, don't do anything. I think that's the biggest part.
Yeah. That
You got to
is,
do the work.
that is. I'm going to say hello to a few people.
Sure.
Hello, Pursue Higher Dreams. Hello, Dr. Crystal. Hello from ATL. Yes, thank you. Thank you for showing up. Hi, Tiff. Yes, you made it to a live this week. Glad to see you. Glad to see you here. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Oh, and my daughter's actually going to go cook some dinner? What? I would love to see what that looks like.
I love it.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that. And yes, um, Dr. Crystal, if you don't have any red, get yourself some white or just get yourself some water and add something into it. It'll do right, right? Either way, it'll do right for you. So yes.
Absolutely.
Yes, yes, yes. Um, it's an interesting thing just going back to the fact that you said when you are challenged, that quote about challenging yourself to change, it's one that we don't always respond to, you
No,
know? We
no.
know something's the same, but we're not willing to do that. And so
Right. Right.
that's a
I
powerful
think what
thing.
happens is we're expecting the situation to change.
Yes. Yes.
And
Yes.
so if the situation is not changing, what are you going to do? Just kind of
Mhm.
hang out there? No, you have to change. So
Mhm.
you're either changing to take yourself out the situation or you're trying to find a way to navigate the situation and keep yourself safe and mentally healthy.
Yes. Yes. And so you talked about your own signs that you knew you needed support. Are there some general signs that sisters could be looking out for to see, like, oh, something's going on with me? I might be approaching burnout. I might not be, but there's something happening, like early signs that we can be aware of?
Absolutely. So I think one of the biggest signs I would say would be um, if you're getting triggered all the time, if you find yourself in a space of irritability at the slightest things.
Mm,
Um, One of the things that I talk with my clients about is the C method. And that's really taking a moment to sense what's going on with you,
mm,
your body, your mindset, how you're feeling, and then explore why you're having those feelings.
mm,
Um, and then what things do you need to execute in order to step back?
right.
And so a lot of times we'll know that things are bothering us, like, or if you're always tired, like
Mm-hmm.
you wake up tired. I always tell people if you're waking up tired
Right.
and you tell me that you had 6 or 8 hours of sleep,
Right.
then something's wrong. Or if you're not sleeping enough,
Mm.
you know, all of those are signs. Of course, if you're feeling sad or lonely, or I am a person that I can always know that I need to kind of do something with myself if I'm
Mm.
withdrawn,
Mm.
because I'm
Okay.
a person who will withdraw, and
Mm.
I will come in the house on Friday and not leave till Monday. And
Okay.
if I'm doing that consistently,
Mm-hmm.
then it's like, okay, check yourself.
Check
What's going
yourself.
on? That you're always wanting to stay in the house. And the only time you're going out is if you're going to work and you're coming home. So I think it's really important to pay attention to what's happening with you. You know, you don't want to speak to people. You just kind of are isolating yourself. Those are all signs.
Mm.
And another sign that most people don't think is a sign is, are you always bored? Like, does
Mm.
everything bore you? Does it bore you to be around people? Does it bore you to be around at work? Well, then I typically say, well, then if you're always bored, then you're not walking in your purpose.
Ooh, that is a
But
good one.
you're just right now, you're just fulfilling the space.
Wow.
So you need to really walk in your purpose and figure out what that is.
That's a big one. And I don't think anyone thinks about the idea of being bored because you're not where you need to be. That's
Yeah,
powerful.
yeah,
Because when you are where you need to be, you're definitely not bored because you are engaged in
yeah,
whatever is in front of you, whatever challenge is put
right,
in your way. So
right,
that is
right,
that's a really big one. And I hope, I hope people realize that. And for educators, it's a hard thing to think that you could be in a profession, especially if you're in the classroom,
mhm,
or if you're in leadership role. If you're in leadership role and you definitely don't realize that you shouldn't be tired all the time. Yes, the work can be hard and it can be fully consuming, but some of the things that you're talking about really feel like that's par for the work, right? I wake up, I'm in schools, or I'm dealing with families, parents, policies, board members. I am going to feel like this. So you really don't pay attention to those signs.
right, right. Because once you walk in the building, it is one thing after the other, after the other, after the other.
Yes.
But even I wish someone would have told me at that time, even in the midst of that, you need to be setting up a routine for yourself and
Mm,
doing the smallest things so
mm,
that you can catch your breath.
yeah.
Because there's sometimes where you have to kind of just set what that schedule is going to be. It's
Right.
not always possible, but you can step back and say, okay, for the next 5 minutes, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to just kind of do 4-7-8 breathing technique or something, right? So that I
Right.
can recenter myself. You know, I'm going to sit in front of my computer for the next 5 minutes and do some sort of soundscapes, right? But we're always on, and we don't think that we can be off. And
Right.
here's where you have to set some boundaries.
Right. Right. I think that is a wonderful strategy, and people don't create routines. I mean, some people go to work, they make their coffee, they get at their computer, they do what they got to do. If you're, that's if you're in the office. If you're in a school, you run, you run, you run. You hear
Mm-hmm.
educators say, I haven't even used the bathroom today. Why is that a badge of honor that you've gone 6 hours and haven't
It's
taken
not.
15 minutes to go to use the bathroom? And that happens all the time. Or I haven't eaten lunch,
Absolutely.
and I'm so guilty of that. I'm running, running.
Hmm.
I've had my water, I've had my snack, but I've had nothing to eat.
Yeah.
Nothing to
Yeah.
eat.
Yeah.
Just
And it's
running.
not good. So if you're not fueling yourselves, how are you adequately pouring into others?
Mm, yeah,
You got to.
that was my conversation literally with myself a few weeks ago about being selfish and
Mhm.
learning how to fuel yourself first.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really important. And so that definitely leads me to this idea of how do you personally define wellness? What does that look like for you? And how
So
does
I
that
think
evolve?
Yeah, so I think some of the things we just said curate that for me. So I'm just gonna speak for myself. When I
Mm-hmm.
decided, and a lot of it came, um, although I was doing bits and pieces of it, it came into fullness during the pandemic
Listen.
because depression was really at that door. And
Yes.
so I started setting daily routines that I
Mm-hmm.
still keep. So for me, it's every morning there's some there's daily devotion. And I don't mean like, oh, thank you, God, 5 minutes and get out.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
it's whether I read something, whether I pray, whether I journal. So it's a good block of time that I just kind of sit with myself before anyone gets up. And that's my time. I find that doing that sets the foundation for the day. um, During the day, I now have this on, and you can get these apps anywhere, where it will pop up with some sort of affirmation throughout the day. Or I used to
Mm.
have scriptures programs come up at a certain time where I'll just read it just to kind of reset me throughout the day. It doesn't take much, but it pops up on my phone. I read it and I'm like, okay,
Okay.
cool. It's just a good reminder.
Mm-hmm.
On those moments where I do have a break, can I walk? Can I go outside and sit in my car for a moment? What can I do where I'm giving myself some space? Can I sit in my room or my office with the lights off for a moment? And then, when I come home, do I just jump into a routine or do I
Right.
find myself and like, so coming home for me, everyone knows when I walk in the house, and it's going to sound silly, for the first hour, don't talk to me. I'm going to watch The View.
Okay. Okay. That's your thing.
That is my thing. And I just need to sit down and do that and decompress. And then we can do all the things.
Okay.
And I also found that it's very important if you have a family that you're living with, that you have the conversations with them. So during the pandemic, I sat down my husband and my child and I said, look, here's the deal. I am stressed out. And so I need to take time. And so there was this couch in my living room. And I said, anytime you see me on that couch, I'm in a self care mode.
Okay.
And I was so excited about how they responded to me.
Mm.
They were like, oh, okay. And so, I would be sitting in the living room in my couch and no one would bother me. And then my youngest daughter was like, hey, mom, can I sit on the other couch so I can do my self care?
Right. I love it. I
but,
love that.
but, can you imagine if we're teaching our kids to take care of themselves when they're
Yep.
kids? When they grow up, they won't be in this burnout cyclical thing.
Man, that's a powerful
So,
thought.
yeah. And so sometimes, I had a client who I was telling her to do that. And she was like, well, my son is really young. I said, he'll do it. So she had a room and they had this agreement where if she put the sign up, he knew that for the next 20 to 30 minutes, he couldn't knock on the door.
Did that
And she had
work?
to It did work for her. And
That's
she said
amazing.
she set him up to do
Yeah.
something. And she said, and what she did, she told him, she said, and you're gonna have your own, and she made it really good. You're gonna
Right.
have your own self-care time, and we'll just be
Yes.
having it separately. And he bought into it.
Love it.
So so I do think if we pour into our children at a younger age and teach them these things, they will take better care of themselves. And I also think that as much time as we spend on IQ and pedagogy, we need to be spending more time on EQ. And this is
Yes.
a way to lay the foundation for emotional intelligence.
Yes. The emotional
So,
intelligent piece is absolutely missing. Not where it needs to be. And I remember moons ago when I was in the classroom, one of the things that we would do after lunch, because I had sixth grade classroom that would be riled up. They'd
oh
come
yeah.
upstairs at after lunch and they would just be like, oh my God, this is what happened. This is what happened. And I
Hmm.
would be like, lights out. And they
Bring
knew
it down.
timer on. And they were like, we
Hmm.
gotta sit quiet for 5 minutes. 5 minutes in, I turned it
Hmm.
over. You could breathe, you could do whatever, but you had to be quiet.
Yeah.
And it just
Yeah.
settled them because we couldn't get anything done in the afternoon if I just let
Mm.
them go, because they would rev
Yeah.
up and they
Yeah.
would just be so out of hand. And so that routine for them was really my routine to be like, I got to manage this class and
Absolutely.
I need to center them to center
Hmm.
myself. And it's funny, you know,
Absolutely.
I don't do that as much because I work with educators who work with leaders, and all we
Hmm.
do is try to like manage the educators when they come into the space, or the leaders when they come into the space, because they're all riled up. And so we have those
Right.
like, let's take a moment, let's breathe a little bit, let's do a little check-in, let's do a temperature check with you all. So
Right.
those are the techniques we use with them, and yet we don't always do that for ourselves. We don't always check in.
Absolutely.
It's so
Absolutely.
interesting. So
And
interesting.
there's so many apps out now. I have gone in the classroom and turned on the Calm app for 30 seconds on the screen,
Right.
and all the kids are looking and they're breathing in and they're breathing out while it's going so they can center themselves and get ready to go. So there's so many things that we need to be doing. Not, and as we model it in front of children,
Yeah.
they begin to pick up those bits and pieces too. So I think that's important as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I appreciate you naming that there was a communication that you had with your family to say,
Yeah.
this is what I need for self
Yeah.
care. You
Yeah.
know, as old as I am, I don't think I communicate that at all well enough.
Right. Hmm.
And I do feel like they want me to have it. And they're always like, Mom, just take a break. Mom, just sit down. And at times I just have to plop down because I'm exhausted,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But to be able to communicate that when you see me do this,
Yeah.
I'm taking a break.
Exactly.
And I need you to
Exactly.
leave me the hell alone,
Right.
just for a little bit,
Absolutely.
just for a
Absolutely.
little bit.
Because your family will say, yes, we know you need a break, but until we tell them what that break looks like, they may still keep
Mm,
coming. And I
mm,
was reading some statistics that said about 53% of women will not share their mental struggles or challenges with people because they feel embarrassed.
that's a big number.
Big number, more
53?
so than men, 53%,
That's a
more
big
so
number.
than men. Yeah.
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 And I wonder why that is such a big number, especially because I feel like, and I don't know, maybe I'm fortunate. I have enough good sister friends in my life that I feel like we share very openly about
Hmm.
how we're doing and what we're struggling with and what's coming up for us. But would I share that with other people? I don't know. That's an interesting number. I'm wondering why it's so high, because it
Yeah.
feels like we have connection more than males. Maybe that's an overgeneralization, but
Hmm.
that's what it feels like.
Yeah. I thought the number was high. So I was like, oh my.
Yeah, that's a big one. That's a
But
big one.
it might also stem from some women not wanting to appear as if they're not strong.
Mm,
You know, I'm
mm.
all about releasing that
Releasing that.
whole strong thing. You know,
Yeah.
if, if we really want to walk in our power, um, let rest be your resilience and stillness be your strength. If you really want to
Mm.
walk in power.
Let rest be your resilience.
Mm.
I love it. That's another one that I've been, and it's not just me. I feel like a number of folks have been there, and they've been there. I feel like prior to the results of the election, we were going there, but I think
Yeah.
now we're like, you know what? We gotta just sit back and take our time on this, because clearly you
Yeah.
don't want our help.
Yeah.
Clearly, we need to take some time
Yeah.
and take care of ourselves. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Oh, here we go. Hello, ladies. Great to meet you. Oh, wonderful. Hi, Crystal. Good to see you. Wonderful for you to have you here with us. Thank you. So, Carol, what do you think the role of community plays in staying well? I was talking about um, my group of sister friends, but I feel like for Black and Brown women, it's really is key and essential for us to kind of navigate so that we don't overlook our own needs. And so what do you think about community being here to support you if you're in education and even if you are not in education? What do you think about that?
It's essential. First of all, in education, I feel as if we're missing the mark um, systemically
Mm. Say more about
in
that.
laying a foundation that creates emotionally intelligent schools, which pours into that whole idea of self-care,
Mm-hmm.
social emotional wellness. And I'm not talking about these little band-aid programs that, oh, you can buy
That we
this
pay for that.
program.
Yes.
Yeah, we can buy this program and, every Wednesday during advisory. No, this needs to start at the local education agency. And just like you're preparing with pedagogy and what things look like, I feel like you need to create a program, a systemic program that focuses on better healthcare and wellness for
Mm.
your educators. Because it's not just teachers, it's everybody. It's teachers to principals to even your support staff. All of them need it. Um,
Yeah.
and so to me, that would be a great community.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Now, can you imagine if you not only have a coach for pedagogy, but you have a coach for your mental health needs?
Yeah. Yeah.
Imagine that. I think, that's where community can start as well. As far as personally, I think it is very important. But as I was looking at some numbers and it was saying that 33% of Black women, okay, out of, between Black, white, Hispanic, and Asian, Black women are the most um, overwhelmed and burnt out at 33%. Hispanics and whites are at 26%, and
Wow.
Asians are at 12%. And so in my mind, I'm like, okay, is it that we don't have enough community?
Right.
Um, are we too much in isolation?
Mm-hmm.
What is happening? And so
Mm-hmm.
I do think that happens. I think what happens, there's so many things going on in our lives, and we're doing this, and we're doing
Yes.
family, and we're doing children,
Yes.
and we're whatever, that we don't take time to do that. You
Right.
know, how do I connect with a group of women,
Mm.
feel comfortable with those group of women,
Mm-hmm.
and share what's going on in my life? You
Mm-hmm.
know, I think sometimes we just rather go at it alone in
Right.
isolation.
Right.
And so I think that's another space. So, even in some of our bigger organizations,
Right.
uh, whether they are sororities or what is the healthcare, the mental health care piece that we're doing with these women to make them feel supported beyond activities and community service. We need to
Right.
be our own community service, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a thought there. Um, this idea of what is the mental health care piece for
Mhm.
ourselves, right? We
Mhm.
offer, many of us in our personal lives or in our organizational lives, if we're part of our church group or we're a
Mhm.
part of a
Yeah.
sorority or whatever organization, we offer conversations around mental health care, but it is not really targeted to us. It
Mhm.
really is like outward and it's for part of the community, but it's almost like we're not part of that community.
Absolutely.
It's
It's
a really strange
outreach.
thing.
It's
It's
outreach.
outreach. We need some
We need to
inner.
reach in.
Right. We need some inner, some reaching in. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
wild. You know what? We really don't. And and I think there is a way in which when we started, you talked about women being ashamed of saying that they need help, saying that they're struggling, saying that they need support. I do feel like, I don't know, maybe this is an age thing. Maybe younger, younger folks are willing to be like, I'm not going to do it. I'm tired. I'm
Yeah.
going to take my self care. And it's not our way if you're 50 and
Yeah.
above. I'll just speak for my
Absolutely.
age group.
Yeah.
We're just like, nah, take it on, take it on. We can do
Yeah.
it.
Mhm.
It's just, that was not modeled for me. My grandmother never ever showed
Not at all.
that she was, even when she was sick and dying, did not show that she was needing support, couldn't manage, and needed help. Like that was not, that was nothing. I never saw
That
that.
wasn't a thing.
That
I
wasn't a
think you
thing.
and I grew up in this era where women went out there and they had things to do, right?
That's it.
You had to take care of your children, you had to work, you wanted to make sure that they got, to a specific school. My mom, like and so you carry on that mindset, right?
Yeah.
I think back to my mom. My mom worked two jobs, like for most as long as I can remember,
Right.
she always worked two jobs. And like one job was 6 to 2 p.m. and the other one, she traveled from New York to Jersey
Mm-hmm.
and work or Jersey to New York and work from 3 to 11.
Mm-hmm.
And then,
For
make
years.
sure all the other things for
For
years.
years. For years. That whole idea of retirement was like, what? Girl, no. You
Yeah.
just gotta, you're not retiring. You're doing your 30
Yeah.
plus and they might give you something. A
Yeah.
party or a
And then,
goodbye.
right. And so I know for me, when I first relocated from New York to Maryland, I had to, I was like, okay, I need to make some more money. So then I was a single mom and I had two, three jobs and I'm going back to school and
Yup.
it was crazy,
Yup.
right?
Yup.
But in my head, I was like, look, my mom did it. I'm
I
going to
can
do it.
do it.
This
Yup.
is how I provide for my child. And so sometimes as I look at my older daughter and even my younger daughter, and I see their strength, which I'm appreciative of, but I don't see them taking care of themselves as much as I would want them to
Mm,
because they watch their mother do certain things,
it's true. It's true.
you know?
We go and go and I have said in the past, we don't realize that the kids are watching. The kids are
Yeah,
watching. They're watching everything we
absolutely.
do. And so in our personal lives, we grind and we may talk a good talk, but we're going, and that's what they
Yep.
see. And
Yeah,
so in our professional lives, we tend to bring that. I bring that same energy to my team.
absolutely.
I'm like, nope, we're gonna get it done. They're like, but we're already in April. I'm like, yeah, and we're gonna make this happen and this
Absolutely.
happen and this happen.
Abs-
So
absolutely.
learning how to, I think what I want to take from what you've said is learning how to be in community and share that the weight needs to be shared or that you
Yeah,
do need support is something that we may also need to practice, right? We may also need to
absolutely.
say out loud, and we may also need to get additional support and be okay and know that it doesn't mean we're less of a person if we
Right.
say we need help or we're less,
Absolutely.
we're always like trying to be ahead of every curve, even though they keep
Yeah.
moving
Yeah.
all of the
And
pieces.
they're always going to move pieces
Right,
to that conclusion, right?
right, right,
You're not going to be able to do all the things, get all the things done, and reach all the pinnacles, and just have everything. Like I'm just like they're going to always keep moving the bar. You
right,
know,
right, for sure.
at at some point you need to set what the boundaries are.
Yeah. So, could I ask you, what
Mhm.
advice would you give women who struggle with that guilt um, when they try to prioritize themselves? How do they deal with the guilt of like, no, I need to take care of me, but this isn't getting done, or I got to stay up late to go through these papers, or so I can't go work out. I have too many things to do for school. I have too many things to do in general. And so they have a lot of guilt. Is there any
Yeah.
advice to
Um,
offer them?
yeah, because I'm not that person as much, but I lived in that lane for so long. And I think also my health,
Mm,
I look at my health and say, okay, you spend so many years and so much time doing this for your family, your children, for the school, and now you're paying it for it health wise at times.
mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so um, I guess I'm going to take it from the perspective of when you get on that plane and the flight attendant says, put on your air mask
Yeah.
so you can help the people.
Yeah.
You need to put on your air mask so that before you can help the people, you got to help yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would say, um, use taking time out for yourself, and having those courageous conversations with your family or even with the people you work with. Real quick, I'm going to tell you a story. I was in a classroom and I said, okay, I need to get up. One of the kids said, oh, she's about to put herself on timeout.
Oh.
I would joke and say that. And timeout for me was to walk out one door,
Mm-hmm.
stop in the middle of the hallway, do a couple of breathing things, and then come back in through the other door. But it
I
was
love
what
it.
I needed at that moment, right? Because somewhere along the line, I had the conversation with the students, right? I was like,
Right.
okay, it's too much for me, and so they knew when I got up and I walked out, came back in the other door,
They were like,
like
oh.
they were shocked. But I think we need to have those courageous conversations, and you
Mm-hmm.
also have to. I always say to people, you're worth it, right?
Right.
And you need to start showing yourself you're worth it. And so if that means
Mm.
that each day you begin to show yourself some compassion,
Mm.
that's important
Mm.
because we show compassion to everyone else. You got to show it to yourself. And what does that look like for you?
Right.
Um, and you have to affirm yourself daily, and you've got to set boundaries daily. And as we were talking earlier about just having that routine,
Mm-hmm.
is 30 minutes really going to make that much of a big difference?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think so.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Some of us sit down in front of the TV for 30 minutes.
Right.
So stepping away for something, you know, there's always tomorrow. And, and in terms of profession, when I always feel so bad when I hear about people who pass away at work.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Just like, oh my God,
Yeah. That.
passing away in your classroom. I that's not where I want. That's not what I want to do.
No.
You know.
No. And there are
Mm-mm.
lots of stories about that.
Yeah, yeah. And so I continuously say to clients, I will say to everyone that's on here, you are 100% worth it. Take time for yourself.
Mm.
You
Mm.
can start with one small thing
Right.
and increase over time. You're
Right.
gonna find that it's not as hard as you think.
Yeah. Yeah.
If that means you got to put down the grading of the papers for 30 minutes, then do that.
Yeah.
You're not going
Because,
to do 130 kids in 30 minutes anyway. So,
and when you have that many classrooms that you got to do, it's
yeah,
already a big enough task. So,
absolutely.
chunking it anyway
Hmm.
might be the better way to go.
Yeah.
It might be a
But
better
I'm
way.
definitely an advocate of figuring out what your routine is. Here, if you're a parent, you're figuring out routines for your kids every day.
Right.
Why not yourself?
Right. Right. Yeah, I
If
think
something,
that's
yeah, if something's going on with your child at school or on a team, you're advocating for them, and advocate for yourself in the same manner because you're worth it. You got to prioritize yourself.
yeah. Figuring out the routine for yourself. That's a big one. I noticed the more I am being vulnerable and putting myself out here and doing this work, the more I have to stop and reflect because you come here every Wednesday and you're trying to be supportive of others and all the time I say I'm having this conversation with myself. I'm having this conversation and I feel like this conversation is also one that I'm having with myself, with you, but for myself because I'm not always. I had a really good routine at the beginning of the year. Get up, get straight on my Peloton, ride it out, do my 30
Mm-hmm.
minutes, stretch for 10, say my prayers, take my shower. Now I'm so sluggish. Get up in the morning, I look at it. That's why, my husband turned the whole room around so that I got to see it in the back and be like, oh Lord, have you done anything for yourself
Mm-hmm.
today? And also when I don't do it, I've been able to at least give myself a break because I was guilty for not getting on and then guilty, either way. So I do think this idea of creating a routine and it changes and it ebbs and flows, but getting back on by offering ourselves that compassion that we talked about
Right.
earlier, right?
Right.
Because things
You
have
have
ebbs
to.
and flow.
Yeah.
And in schools, you have ebbs and flow, right? You start off the year with the bang. September, you're excited, you get going, you're setting up your classroom. October, you're in a groove. November, and then you're like, oh my God, when is Christmas coming? I need a break.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right? And then that happens, and then the new year comes, and the kids are all crazy again.
Mhm.
And then you're waiting for the spring break, and then spring break, winter
Absolutely.
break, or spring break. And now you're in this like, we're about to have spring break, and then we're going to come back, and we got to hold them together until June. So there's a flow to it.
There's a fun.
There's a flow, and we have to figure out how we create these habits for wellness
You
throughout
know
this
what? When
flow.
you one thing I did want to say is and I think the fact that you're saying ebbs and flows, your routine doesn't have to be the same routine every day. Your
Mm,
routine can be, oh, I'm going to lean into Peloton Monday and Wednesday, but maybe on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I'm just going to sit up and journal, or
right,
I'm just gonna sit here
right,
and listen to the soundscape.
right.
That can ebb and flow as well. But I
Mm,
just think that you're not going to continuously get far and not crash unless you do something. And
right.
I have been on that other end of crashing, and it was not a pretty sight at all. And
Mm,
so the one thing
mm,
I have, like, you and I know that we've suffered some loss
mm-hmm,
recently, and
mm-hmm,
I've suffered it twice. And so I'm really in this space of sensing how I feel,
mm,
with
mm-hmm,
the emotions that come with that, and still having to be here, show up for my family, and
right.
show up for people in the school building. But I also recognize I'm tired. So what does
Yes,
that mean? For me
yes.
yesterday, that meant, hey everyone, I'm going straight to the room and I'm going to bed.
Yeah,
Like I have to tap out.
I tap
So I
out.
recognize I have to tap out, and
I have to.
don't be offended, even at school.
Yeah,
I'm 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 I actually told someone I'm not in the space to have this conversation right now.
you know what? That's really important. I'm gonna need you to say that again. I am not in the
Not in the
space.
space to have this conversation right now.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So um and I don't feel like I have to apologize or explain my boundary.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Um, very, very important that we put up the boundary so that we can be well,
Mhm.
right? And so that we
Absolutely.
can show up, I don't want to say in a respectable way, but there are times when people will push you, especially in schools, right to the edge and
Yeah.
want to cuss them out. And you
I
might
know
not
that
do
well.
that because you learn how to we learn how to
Right.
code switch well. We learn how
Yeah.
to code switch
Absolutely.
as young children. We know when we move into that professional building, they're already looking at us in a particular way, so we show up in that way. But to be able
Right.
to say I'm not in the headspace to have that conversation right now is a powerful way to put some boundaries on the foolishness that they about to put on you.
Right. Right.
And yeah,
And
that's
and,
that's
and
that's
it's and
important.
it's and because I'm telling you beforehand, um, then I'm expecting you to respect it and not push it, because then the conversation is not going to be the way you want it to be.
Right.
We're not, because
Right.
I'm not in the space to do that.
Right.
So I think you got to know your limits. You got to know when to back out
Mm,
and take that time for yourself.
I love it. Know your limits. So what would you say to your younger self
Oh
about
God.
self-care and
Ooh.
and wellness? What's the statement? What's the thought? What would you say?
Um, I would say I'm sorry.
Mm,
And I mean, honestly, you don't know what you don't know. But I would
Yeah.
apologize to my younger self
Hmm.
because my younger self endured a lot of pain, and my younger self really, I was grinding. I was a single mom. I was grinding, grinding,
Mm.
grinding.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought I thought the grinding was going to make me feel better. And although it did in
Right.
some level, because I was, moving up in my career,
Right.
that was still just the band-aid, you
Yeah.
know. And so to my younger self, I would say I'm sorry, but I would also say, but she got it now. I got it now.
Got it now.
I got it now. I'm not letting go of it. I got it now.
Mm.
And and here's the thing I also tell my clients. Remember, this thing is not about perfection. It's about progression.
Right.
So there's some days you get it right, and then there's
Right.
some days you will revert to old habits. But it's up to you to recognize when that's happening and saying, "Ah, come on back,
Right.
do what you need to be doing." Yeah.
Right.
So that's absolutely what I would tell my younger self.
I love it. It's about progression, not perfection. Yeah,
Absolutely.
I think we all have to say a little bit of a sorry, in different places. Tell me what's bringing you joy right now. I can't leave it on that. What's bringing joy to you right now? How are you
Yeah.
showing up joyful?
Well, part of it has to be that I'm on my way exiting this wonderful profession that I have put lots of years in.
Yes.
And I think the space that I'm in, where I recognize it's okay not to be okay,
Mm.
and it's okay to be in the space that I'm in. And um, it has allowed me to kind of filter things and people out and recognize when, I love you, but I got to love you from afar.
Hmm. Yes.
Because where I am, I can't take that
Yes.
on a daily basis,
Yes.
on a
Yes.
weekly basis in some
Yes.
spaces. So I'm happy with the person that I'm getting to know every day.
I love
I'm
it.
getting to know myself more every day.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Thank you for sharing that. Truly sharing that. And I think if you work in a school and you have put in your years and time, if you're in a district, if you're
Yeah.
wherever you are in this space, you can stand back and be like, I gotta put some boundaries around this.
Yeah.
Because people will take you. There's a way that there's a grind in schools. I don't know in any other business if they have that same kind of grind, but schools they take everything out of you. It's
Absolutely.
if you're doing it well, you're giving 110. If you're
Yeah.
just showing up, you don't really care, nobody's checking, but if you are doing well for kids and families, you're giving a lot.
You are. You
And
are.
it takes
You are.
so much. And so learning how to put up those boundaries and step back and all of those things, I think it's really important for educators, but it's really important for women in general. And I have to just
Absolutely.
put up
Especially
Tiffany.
Black women.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
say it. No, no, no. Go ahead. Say it.
Especially Black women. I think that someone was saying that Black women are the most educated. Um,
Oh, yes.
we're the most educated.
Oh,
But
yes.
that's because we are working twice as hard to get maybe not twice as far
Oh, yeah.
as people who work less than us.
Oh, yeah.
And so I'm not telling people, not to work hard and, achieve the goals that they want to achieve, but on the way, work smart and take care of
Yes.
yourself. Because if something happens to you, they're going to put the next person in there.
Oh, that's for damn sure.
So
I
we need
say
to
that
take care of ourselves.
all the time. I'm always like, mm-mm, they don't love you. They don't love you like
Mhm.
you think they love you. I have
Okay.
learned that it has taken time to get there. I am
Yeah.
a work hard, play harder person. I work
Yeah.
hard all the time, but I love to play harder than I
Right.
work.
And
Than
that's
I
great.
work. Yep.
That's great.
That
You
is
know,
me trying to get to that work life balance. That is
yeah,
part of the reason why I wanted to create this space, because I know that the work life balance is not always there,
not at all.
especially for Black and Brown women. It
Yeah.
is really, really difficult for us to do that dance.
Mhm.
And no, I'm all about, we gonna work hard. We gonna do the damn
Yeah.
thing, but we gonna play
Yeah.
really hard. When it's time to
And
play,
you should. Yeah.
we gonna play. I want to just share this. Tiffany said, based on what you said, I'm not ready for your shenanigans. I'm not in that headspace right now. I'm committing this statement to memory. I love it. I love it. And Darshelle is in the space, and she was like, amen to that.
Michelle.
Yes. Hey, Darshelle, so happy that you caught us. Darshelle is always in the
Yes.
space. I so appreciate her, and I so appreciate you for coming on and being
I
here
thank you
with
for
me.
having me, Dr. Davia. I thank you. I thank
Listen,
you.
this has all
Yeah.
been wonderful. I want to put up your website one more time, and then I want to show your. I want to put this up. IamMyPieces.com.
Hmm.
Did I got that right?
Yeah, you
Yes.
did. And if anyone wants, I have a free ebook, and
Mm-hmm.
it's called Managing the New Normal,
Okay.
um, a
Let me
guide to
write that.
self care. And so, if anyone would like that, they could either email me at carol@iamypieces.com, or you can just go on the website and leave me a message. And it gives you some tips
Nice.
about what to do for self care.
Mm-hmm.
And it also has a 7-day self care challenge in there so that, you can challenge yourself to do those things you say you're going to do. So
Oh
it's free,
yes.
nothing. Just grab it.
Wonderful. Carol, thank you for sharing that. If you send me the link, I will add it to the show notes once this is up.
Absolutely.
And
Okay.
Dr. Crystal said this was a great discussion, so needed right now. Yes, it is so needed. We are so under attack. Our profession is really being dehumanized in a way that I don't even know what to say. We are raising educated folks to do the work of the world, and yet they want to attack everything about, they want to attack the researchers, they want to attack free thought, they want to attack the caretakers, the family child care workers, like
Yeah,
everything. And so it is really, it's a hard time to be in education
it
right now.
is. It's a
It's a
hard
hard
time,
time.
but don't make it so hard that you don't take care of yourself. I'm going to keep running that.
Keep running
When
it.
you can no longer change a situation, you are challenged to change yourself.
And we're gonna leave it on that note. I wanted to
Hmm.
share this. I hope it comes up. Let me see if I got you here. Wait, let me make sure I have you here.
Yes.
You are not in my source. Let me make sure I get you in here. Why am I not finding you here? I wanted
Is it
to.
the Emotionally Intelligent Educator Network? Is that what you mean?
Yes, yes, yes. You see
It's
that?
up.
That okay,
Yes.
good. It's up. I just wanted to make sure. I wanted to share this. And Carol, I wanted you to speak a little bit about this because I joined the group on LinkedIn. I'm
Hmm.
not as active as I need to be, but I love that you have
You, it's
this.
okay.
But
Right.
I wanted you to just give a little voice to this before we go because I wanted
Right.
to
I
highlight
just,
this.
yeah. Thank you so much, Davia. I just
Yes.
wanted a space for educators to go where they can pick up the bits and pieces that we're talking about right now in that network. So there's everything from how to be socially aware,
Mm.
how to be self-aware. What are
Mm-hmm.
some good tips if you're stressed out? What are some things you can do with students and for yourself? So I really want to be able to create a space where I can pour into educators
Nice.
and that you can grab something there. There's also um, a little test on, how emotionally intelligent,
Uh
you
huh.
are, and so that you can see what your deficits are, what you might need to work on, so you
Right.
take care of yourself. So
Right.
it's just a safe space for people to go in there, read something that hopefully will make you feel good that day, try something. There's always an idea that's being given to you that you can
Mm-hmm.
try. So I
Mm-hmm.
absolutely wanted to find a way to give back to educators.
I love that. So, anybody in this space, if you know of an educator, I want you to one, share this episode with them, and let them know about this LinkedIn group, the Emotionally Intelligent Educator Network. And if you are an educator, go ahead and join. Go ahead on LinkedIn, look it up, and continue to get these great tidbits from Carol. I so appreciate her sharing all her good work. And I'm just going to throw up this one last yes. Traveling and resting is how you are staying grounded. I love that. I love to travel. And yes, we
Mm-hmm.
are going to be out in these traveling streets together for
Yeah,
sure.
absolutely.
For
Absolutely.
sure. All right. Well, I have to, we have to cheers. I know you have your water.
Okay. I have my water.
Yes. Cheers. Yes. Thank you so much.
And thank you for having me. I so appreciate it.
Yes. And remember, everybody, stop doing all the things, not all the things. We need to take it down a bit. Take it down.
Yeah.
All right. Until next week, have a
Until.
good week. Bye, y'all.
Thank you. Bye
Thank
bye.
you.